2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not but 6 of us so far. Well, that's just enough to do what we want to today.
Well, now we can. There's
Yeah.
Phil.
Hey, Phil.
Hey, how's it going?
I don't know. How's it going?
Well, I always wonder that myself when I talk to you guys, but I think I'm doing all right.
All
Hey,
right.
by the way, did I understand, Councilman Ledford, you were looking for a attorney-client today?
Yes, yes, sir. And I've talked to Phil before the meeting, and he's ready to answer questions and go over what I think we need to go over.
Okay. All right. We should have time, I would think, in the strategic planning.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Nicole, I have 2 o'clock.
We don't have.
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Tuesday, January the 5th strategic planning meeting, our first meeting back from the new year. Happy New Year to everyone. Now call this meeting to order. The first item that we have on our agenda for strategic planning is council goals and objectives. But Councilwoman Burrs, if there's no objection, I'd like to just move that to our committee meeting that we're going to have at 3:30.
Sure, makes
Budget and
perfect sense.
finance. Okay. All right. The next item that we have on our strategic planning agenda is our council meeting start time that was suggested by Councilman Ledford, but I think Councilwoman Coonrod had to ask for the discussion. So I don't know which one of you would like to take the floor, but Councilman Ledford, I guess if it was your idea, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then you and Councilwoman Coonrod can have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Simply, the idea is really just an idea. It came around when we had our early meeting last year for the November 3rd election, and it was while we were on Zoom, be able to move our time frame for meeting up a little bit earlier so that city staff and we could basically conduct our business sooner and start our meetings at 4 o'clock while we were continuing on the Zoom platform. I do know the governor has extended the opportunity to do that. I don't know how long now with the vaccine out. So it was just an idea for discussion, and I'll just kind of leave it there and defer to my esteemed colleague, Councilwoman Coonrod, to see if she has anything she'd like to add.
Councilwoman Coonrod? Yep, you must be muted. It doesn't show muted. Well, your mic is not working, ma'am. We can't hear you. If you can do sign language, Councilman Ledford can interpret for us.
I'll do my best. She says, "Happy New Year. Everyone looks great."
Maybe.
I tell you what, Councilwoman, you can type in any comments that you have in the chat box, and I can forward those on. I can forward those on to the council, or they can read them.
Yeah, Chairman, I really don't have anything else to add on the topic. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
That's it.
Councilman Mitchell has his hand up. Let's see what he has to allow. Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I was hoping to hear from Councilperson Coonrod first. Maybe she can, maybe it'll work now for her.
Let's see. No,
Oh,
still can't hear
wow.
you.
Well, this will be interesting.
We have found a way to silence her voice. I'm just kidding.
Never.
I'm just kidding.
Mr. Chair, all I was going to ask, I was just going to ask one question. And I don't think it's a bad idea, but I'd like to know, everybody has their own schedules, and we put aside 6 o'clock and then a little bit before for other committee meetings and agenda sessions and strategic planning. But I would want to know if going earlier every week would put a cramp in a council person's other business they need to accomplish.
Councilman Mitchell, I can, and I don't want to speak for him, but I did have a conversation with Councilman or Vice Chair Smith. And he has a standing obligation about this time every week. And it would hinder a prior commitment that he's made by adjusting the time of our meetings. While he is having to miss strategic planning, if we moved our time, it would hinder him being able to join us at the 3:30 agenda session.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you, sir.
All right. Councilman Gilbert, I see you lowered your hand.
Raise it again.
Okay.
It will be a slight strain for myself, but I can probably make it. I will probably, if we did go that early time to get the agenda, like we get agenda now 2 hours prior to the meeting, maybe get there 2 hours prior to this time, but I might can work that out. It will be a strain though, because you know certain things happen at certain times where I work at.
All right. Councilwoman,
We can do it.
Councilwoman Burrs.
My thoughts are pretty much that about the public and the fact that it may be confusing for them, or there are still people that even though they're at home, they're working and they may not be able to participate the same. I can make happen whatever needs to happen, but I think we do have some obligation to the public. The other thing that occurs to me was something that you mentioned earlier, Mr. Chair, and that is right now we're about taking all the time we've got and we're on Zoom and we're going right up to the limit. So I'm not sure, unless we started everything early.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it would work. Thank you.
Okay. I think that was the idea, wasn't it, Councilman Ledford? I believe we started our primary meeting, our regular meeting at 4 o'clock on that day that you were mentioning.
Yeah, the example that I was using, I think we started at noon or instead of 2, like on a strategic planning day, and we basically backed it up. Like I said, just an idea. I'm seeing some conflicts in scheduling, so I certainly wouldn't want to cause anyone any stress in their schedules, and obviously remind people that this is supposed to be a part-time job, and that we do have some of us full-time obligations that actually pays the bills.
Councilman Byrd?
The same thing, just want to echo that it would definitely put a strain on my situation. Could I work it out? Yes. And but it would be a strainful situation to try to work out. So I just want to voice that. Thank you.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing is, I guess I'm not hearing any real advantage to moving it up. I'm hearing some reluctancy in some council members, being able to work it out, but I'm getting the sense from the majority that maybe we just best leave it as it is, at least for now.
Roger that.
Okay, good. Councilman Gilbert, is that an old hand, sir, or you got
That's an old hand.
old hand? Okay. All right. So at least for the time, I think it's pretty much the consensus of the council to leave our meeting times as is. All right, moving on to our next item on our strategic planning is our short-term vacation rental ordinance. And I think Councilman Oglesby asked for this to be placed on. So Councilman Oglesby, if you would like, sir, to address this at this time.
Thank you. For the past several months, several years seem like, thank you, Mr. Chairman, we've been talking about short-term vacation rentals. But most recently, we have been juggling on non-owner occupied versus owner occupied. And I just want to bring it forward to get some clarification from this council, how you wish to move forward in making those decisions when we consider owner versus non-owner occupied, which recently in District 7, we've had quite a few come up. And looking at the schedule over the next couple of weeks, we're going to have some more coming up. So I just want to bring it open for discussion and move for some finality and get the city attorney to, fill out the appropriate document for us to vote on and move forward with the short-term vacation rental, specifically owner versus non-owner occupied rentals.
So let me ask this question, and maybe the attorney can help us fill in some blanks. And I know some callers from your district with some concerns have mentioned ratios, or I'm looking for the right term, and it's not coming to me right now, but some kind of balance between owner or non-owner occupied, and it seems to be coming in the form of maybe multi-unit buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe let me ask you this: would that, if we addressed non-owner occupied in multi-unit buildings, is that what you're seeing as the main concern, or would you say it goes further even to single or single family detached houses, homes as well?
Are you wanting legal at this point, or where are you wanting to go on here?
Well, I was asking Councilman Oglesby, but I think he may be.
Oh, I thought you mentioned the city attorney. Yeah.
Oh, well, I was just saying the city attorney could probably help us. I guess I'm trying to be more specific in the question, or what it is that you would like to see addressed. Is it the non-owner occupied in multi-unit developments, or the single family detached as well?
No, I think it's really across the board. If you go to one part of my district, it's detached units that people have been inquiring about, short-term vacation rentals that are non-occupied. And then we got, say, most recently, the area down on Main Street where we've had people wanting to do short-term vacation rentals in multi-units. And it was suggested that maybe we could look at some sort of ratio, as you just alluded to. So right now, I just want us to get to a point where it's not subjective, if I'm saying that correctly, where we have a legitimate legal reason when we vote or recommend not for someone not to have a short-term vacation rental ability to earn some living, as many of them have come before us saying this is what it was, a second income, or they was just trying to supplement income to be able to stay in their place. So I really intend for this to be an open discussion, because prior to this, I mean, I was really good with it, but the thing that has really come forward is the non-owner occupied short-term vacation rentals.
Okay. Before we get a comment from the attorney, let me go to Councilman Byrd. He's got his hand up.
Thank you, Chair. One of the things, Councilman Oglesby, that I'm dealing with as well when it comes to it is that and to the attorney, I keep seeing where just by the community, every community has their own little footprint of how they would like it. Some communities are overwhelmingly like, yes, more short-term, it's cool, we love it. And then some communities are like, no. So depending on where the person decides to put it, they can get yes or no, but really no structure behind to say, this is why we're saying no. The only reason we're saying no is because these people are on this phone call telling us to say no, and you work for your constituents. So that's why you would say no. And I'm with you, Councilman Oglesby. I just think we're setting ourselves up later on for something crazy to happen, whether it's a suit or something of that nature. And I don't know what Phil has to say, but can we be in any type of legal trouble at the end of the day, or we do have the ability to just go by a community basis to say yes or no, whether this community wants it or not? We have the legal basis to say, well, this community said no, so it's no. Well, this community said yes, so it's yes. And what do you see any legal issues coming up down the line for that? Because it just seemed like Councilman Oglesby said, is no structure or law or nothing in place to say these are the things why we said no, it's just the community.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes, you currently have in your ordinance a provision that at least says that no one person can have more than 2 short-term vacation rental certificates for non-owner occupied in a multifamily dwelling. That's one thing that we did add in the last provisions that you were dealing with that. So if it's a high-rise structure or a multifamily building, you can't have more than 2 in connection with that. Now, that does not mean that multiple people couldn't have 2 in that structure. That's something that you might need to consider whenever you're talking about multifamily buildings having more of a short-term vacation rental use than actual residential use. That's one concern to think about. The other thing, we have included provisions in our ordinance that says that if you're getting some sort of residential housing benefits from the city here for an HEB or some type of pilot program, then you cannot operate a short-term vacation rental in those structures. So we've included that previously in our ordinance. Your questions about what problems would you get into in neighborhoods is another issue here. We have a district that we've defined currently within the city as a short-term vacation rental district. If you're going to try to establish amounts that can be done in specific areas or specific communities, you really need to think about that as to a ratio of what you would think would be important to have as non-owner occupied and owner occupied in those areas. And I don't know if you do that based upon streets, if you do that based upon community boundaries, which are loose in a lot of situations as to what is the actual community that is involved. But I think you'd have to get something from planning in that regard as to what would be a ratio that would be somewhat acceptable. I do think that it's better to have some type of ratio basis than it is to just say that the community is against it and therefore we're not going to allow it to occur. That can be an argument against you as to whether you're being arbitrary or capricious in your rulings towards anybody trying to operate a specific short-term rental.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let me go to Councilman Ledford now.
Bill, are you referring to density capped?
Yeah, I think you could do that as far, but the question is, what is the proper density?
Right.
I think you need to have someone from planning telling you that, because this is the operation essentially of a commercial enterprise in a residential area. And you got to think of it in that regard, because the reason people are wanting to do a short-term rental is because of the monetary aspect.
Agreed. Thank you.
So let me, I guess, summarize what I'm hearing and see if this is acceptable to Councilman Oglesby. Maybe we need to, from what I'm hearing from the city attorney, ask RPA to maybe come up with some suggested limits or density caps, ratios, however we want to word it or call it. I think we probably need to look at the overall short-term vacation rentals that are offered in that. One thing that occurs to me is if there are no objections to non-owner occupied, then they automatically get it. And so those could continue, continually to the point that, maybe we are saturated with them and without our knowledge of them, which is the same with owner occupied, as long as they meet the life safety codes and they're in a residential area, then they're granted as long their certificate as long as they're owner occupied. So would that be suitable to you to maybe ask RPA to come up with some language, Councilman Oglesby? Or
Yeah, that would be great, Mr. Chairman. That's the same direction I was headed with that. So Phil, I guess can you set that up and we can have a conversation on what that looks like? Because I'm really concerned that when we're refusing some of these rentals, that it could put us in a situation that we really don't want to be in. And we may have to justify why we made that decision, and then we don't have any grounds or any basis or anything legal to say this is why we did it.
Yes, sir.
And,
So we'll
and,
do
and,
that.
and I don't want this to create, I think it's short-term vacation rental is a great idea. Many people in our city, not only just in 7, like the idea, but
Yeah.
From what I'm hearing is, there are some caps, if you will, that need to be achieved so the market is not oversaturated, which is what we got early on in this process, was making sure that we don't have whole streets or whole neighborhoods that short-term vacation rentals, but at the same time, we need to have a reason to say why we refuse or reject an application. So back to you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in full support of that. Yeah.
So, Mr. Attorney, you typically, RPA likes for the council to present a resolution asking them to move forward with something.
Okay.
So I guess what we need to do is present or come up with some kind of resolution asking RPA and Councilman Oglesby, if you'd like to work with the attorney as to the wording, what it is you specifically would like to ask RPA to do, to recommend, to study, I'd ask you to work with the attorney and bring us a resolution before the council to ask RPA to look into this.
Yes, sir. I do think it's very important that you have RPA involved partially in this because of the aspect that we have not only R1, R2 zones involved, but we have a number of different zoning provisions that apply to this. And so I think that's important. They need to look at that regarding ratios that might be effective in different zoning areas.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll get with Phil and RPA and we'll start working on this and get a resolution back to the council for consideration to be put on the agenda to be voted on.
Okay. All right. Great. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, moving on to other business. We have under pending presentations and education sessions, Councilwoman Burrs, and maybe help me, I don't remember if we were supposed to have taken this off, but the panhandling ordinance review is still listed.
Right. We weren't supposed to take it off. We were supposed to discuss it in legislative committee. I've gotten really good input from Councilman Ledford and several others about the ordinance, but it was to be assigned. It was assigned to legislative committee, and then Councilman Smith obviously has some challenges from work. So I don't know how you want to proceed.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you what, let me get with Councilman Ledford, Councilman or Vice Chair Smith. I think as long as we do it during the 3:30 time slot, he could be able to handle that. I'm making a note now.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, we have nothing under, at this point, future legislation or education sessions. We do have a couple of board appointments there that you can see that still needs to be made from a variety of districts.
Chairman?
I'm sorry?
If I can go back to pending.
Okay, Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, sir. I am working with something with Phil. I hope to present to the council in the next couple of weeks, something that has been brought up, a topic of concern for council dating back to our budget hearings. And I think that I should have something. I'm not ready to present it just yet, but Phil and I are working through something. I just want to put that as a foreshadow for upcoming.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
All right, you see the items that we have. We do have two committees this afternoon. We have Budget and Finance, and we have Planning and Zoning. Is there anything else that we need to cover during the strategic planning period that we would not cover during our agenda session? Okay. I'm seeing no hands. It is my understanding that we do need an attorney-client privilege meeting this afternoon. So Nicole, are you able to log us out and then start us back again?
I will try to do that.
Okay.
Nicole,
All right.
did you get my note about Joe as well?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Council, at this time, let's go ahead and log off and then